Okay, so I've done a whole workshop on mindset, and I'm going to just distill it down. So I'm going to go a little bit quickly, but I want to cover a lot of these principles. Mindset, though, when I first heard about it, I always kind of thought like, well, that's think positive, and it's really not. Um, there's a lot more to that. And I came from a very, not on purpose, but a family who was very negative and passive aggressive in a lot of ways. And I kind of always thought, well, I would rather not be part of that, but I didn't know how to work around that. So I've really studied this a lot on my own, and I'm still learning and I'm still growing, as many of us are. But that's why I love covering this. Um, Dr. Daniel Amen, who literally studies how the brain is physically and blood flow in the brain, um, his quote I love here: "It's not positive thinking that ignores reality." That's that whole like, oh, everything will be okay, or just think positive and it'll be good. No, but instead, he advocates accurate, honest thinking. So that's when you look at a situation and you're honest and what can you do about it? For instance, I am 6 foot. I'm also 56 years old, and I really can't dribble that well. Do I think I have a shot at being on the Lakers? Probably not. So that would be an unrealistic goal. That would be that positive thinking that's ignoring reality. However, what if I wanted to become the best basketball player I could? Well, that's different. I would need then to apply myself. I would need to work towards that. I would need to practice. I would need to study. But I can tell myself, hey, I'm going to be the best basketball player I can be. I'm going to get better and better every day. I'm going to seek out ways to improve. I'm going to add 5 minutes until I can practice 2 hours a day doing basketball. All of those things is the honest, accurate thinking that'll help you in your mindset. And so that's why I wanted to kind of bring that, because a lot of people are like, oh, just think positive. No, no, no. It has nothing to do with that, because that can totally ignore reality. And that actually becomes a disservice, because then one, you don't work towards it. And two, the back of your mind, you're like, I don't believe that. But if you make it something that like, no, 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 I can really improve that. I can be the best that I can be. You can tell yourself at the beginning of the day, today is going to be an awesome day. You may have a flat tire, but well, what does that mean? Well, you can look at it and say, now I have a challenge, how I'm going to handle that. The awesome part of me having a flat tire was, did it build my character? Did it help me empathize with other people when they have an issue? You can take all those things and learn and grow from that. And that's that approach. That's that mindset that you're trying to cultivate. So some of the stuff that I want to talk about are even some of the specific phrases. I'm not going to go over all of these phrases, and I'll email this PDF out to people. But sometimes it can be anything, like, oh, nothing ever goes right for me. Well, if you're still alive, probably that's a lie. But it's easy to say that. Nothing ever goes right for me. I only have the bad luck. That's I never win anything. Nobody likes me. That's all that negative talk that we repeat over and over again to ourselves. And it's really not also honest and accurate. It just allows us to be negative about something, but it's not really what's going on. Like I said, it could be the sort of thing like, I've had somebody key my car, and just because it was parked out on the street. Now, I'm not going to look at that and be like, just think positive and it'll be good. Well, no, my car is still keyed. Okay. But I can look at the bigger picture and go, okay, I am blessed because I have a car, and two, I have the means where I can get that fixed. So I'm going to focus on that, because it's going to do me no good to focus on the negative. What can I take out of it that's honest and that's accurate, that I can learn and grow from? And that's going to actually help me improve. Think of it like this. If you read the bottom 2 paragraphs, imagine sitting down at your personal keyboard and typing in any of these directions up above into a computer. Then whatever you put in that computer is exactly what it's going to spit out. And our brains do the same thing. If that's what we're always putting into our brains, well, that's what's going to come out of it. And so a lot of times when people are like, oh, things always go wrong for me. Well, that's how you're looking at it. And you may also be programming yourself to setting yourself up to fail because you've programmed your brain to do that very, very sort of thinking. Oh, things always go wrong. No, not really. You're just trying to think that way. That's all. So you want to go ahead and you want to evaluate what your thinking is. Now, I want to break down some of the reasons why. Our brain are like a muscle. The more you exercise, the more it becomes stronger. The more you focus on the negative, the stronger the negative becomes. The more you focus on the positive, the more the positive becomes. Okay, our brains have got neural pathways, and this is where I'm getting into science. Because also, by the way, the whole positive thinking is not like, oh, that's just some people spouting out that mumbo jumbo, and it's like, oh, think positive and everything will be okay. No, it's actually brain chemistry, and it's how our brains are actually wired. The more you focus on what's positive, the more your brain is going to emphasize those positive pathways, and the more you're going to process things through that way. I'll give you an example. Years ago, there was this woman, Linda Sievertstein, and she's an author and she's fabulous, and I loved her. And I would go over to meet her every once in a while, and we would just have a conversation. And I was like, oh my God, I want to be around this person all the time, because she was always so positive. She was always like, she would talk about this and, how she would learn and how she would grow. And I was like, I want to be that person. I just didn't know how to get there. And what I started understanding, how I started getting there, was learning, reading, growing, and working it too. Knowledge without, exercise doesn't get you anywhere. You can know I've got to, I can know I need to go to the gym and do 60 minutes of cardio if I want to lose weight every day. But if I don't go and do it, well, knowing that doesn't do me any good. I got to get my ass into the gym and sweat. And same thing with exercising the brain. You actually have to do the work. Otherwise, it's still not going to get you anywhere. And what I started realizing is the more that I started trying to focus on the positive, and it was hard. I'm going to be honest. It was really hard. My husband and I, we worked on it together, and there's times we struggled because we were so used to being negative from our families, and then with each other, trying to break out of that was really difficult to do. But we started becoming more and more looking in that direction. And it started becoming like, hey, this is a challenge. Hey, this is something that we can grow in. Hey, what can we do to support one another? Not like, oh, you screwed up again, sort of thing. And we started changing that mindset. And I remember it dawned on me, like, now I get Linda better. It's not that Linda had this magical thing that was going on with her. She just exercised her brain to a point to where she thought more positive than she did negative. But let's go into the negative part, because our brain focuses on that. We get about 148,000 no's by the time we reach the age of 18. That's a lot. And we get much less yeses and much less I believe in you. So what ends up happening is our brain naturally goes to that negative, and that will start to permeate in other areas. Let me give a personal example. And by the way, since my sister and I have reconciled, so this isn't an issue anymore, but this happened when I was growing up. My sister hated me as a kid because I was 6 years younger, and I kind of ruined her life by being born because she was no longer the only kid. So when I was growing up, she constantly told me how ugly I was because I had a larger nose. And I heard that all the time. So I'm also telling myself the same thing. And I'm just a kid. So of course, I'm just going to believe what somebody older is going to tell me. And then I reinforce that. So not only did it mean that the time I started getting into high school, I felt like I was ugly all the way into college, but then it permeated into other areas and other things. Because what I started doing is I started thinking, oh, well, nobody would want to date me because I'm ugly. I can't really talk to certain people because they're the popular, pretty people, and I can't be around them. I'm not worth as much as these people are. I can't do as much as these people are. I should just keep things to myself. All of that started coming out of that self-concept. And if you notice too, if you go back to Dr. Daniel Amen, where he said, honest, accurate is what he what he talks to, what he wants to focus on. Same thing with negative thoughts. Your negative thoughts may not be honest and accurate, but if you believe them, you're going to act on them, and it's going to permeate your mind. And then those pathways start setting in more, and then you start processing things through that entire pathway. That becomes your filter, if you will. That becomes how you see everything. Those become your sunglasses, and now everything isn't bright and sunny. Now you have a blue filter over everything because those are your sunglasses, and everything starts to become like that. Now, going back to how our brain functions, there's a reason why we do focus on the negative, because right now we're in a society where we don't have as many dangers as we did. Let's say, I'm just going to pull, 1,000 years ago. Okay. We're just going to go 1,000 years ago. We didn't have as many things we had to watch out for. There wasn't as like, oh, we got to go hunt for our food. And by the way, there's other things hunting for us. And negativity kept us alive. It's a survival instinct. Whenever anything is negative, we automatically react to it in a survival mode. If there's something happening, like if I'm driving and there's something that happens in the car, I react to it because it's like, oh, that's that negative input that may save my life. I may need to hit the brakes. I heard a loud, something loud. I may need to get out of the way. Any of those things, that preserves me. And that's where it comes on, that self-preservation. It's part of the limbic system. Because when I wanted to talk about this today, I also wanted to say, let's talk about some science that this is backed up with. And I'm going to introduce the 3 books that all of this talk is based on, but oh my God, it's just such a skimming of it. So if you really want some good stuff, go into the books. But it's part of the limbic system, and that's one of the most basic parts of our brain because it helps keep us alive. So it's not that I don't want it to be like, oh, why do we even have the negativity? It's a preservation thing, but it's what you focus on is going to make the difference. And that's really going to be the key part. Sorry about that. Okay. So, oh my gosh. Okay. Your ability to focus on positive thinking is actually the higher functioning part of our brain. And it takes an effort. It's natural to be negative. So also when you think like, well, people are just naturally negative. I'm naturally negative. We're wired to be that way. What you're doing is you're making the higher part of your brain wired to be positive. The limbic system's always going to be there. And that's fine because that keeps you, that protects you. But the higher thinking part of your brain is what you program in daily. And that's that stuff like, oh, I never am lucky. No, that's your programming. That's not actually, the truth. The part where, hey, I'm going to go skydiving without a parachute. That's when the limbic system, kicks in and is like, no, you stupid. So, that's going to keep you alive because that's a danger. So that's that, that's how it's going to be structured. And again, think of it like programming a computer. The more you program in, that's what you're going to get out of the computer. And so that's the way it's going to work. If you could imagine reprogramming your brain, how much more do you think that you could accomplish? You could be at peace with things. You could be open. You can love deeper. And it goes on. There's all these things that can be better by that part of the brain focusing on the positive. And it's exercising it. It's focusing and exercising on it. Again, when I go to the gym, if I walk into the gym and I sit in the seat and then an hour later I leave, not going to do me any good. I need to go in the gym and I need to work it. I need to exercise it and then I leave. Okay. That's the different part of that. There's 5 steps that control our success or failure. So I'm going to go in this order and then you'll kind of see how it gets put together. First is behavior. That's a step that mostly controls our success or failure if we do something or don't do something. Every second of every day, we're making a decision. Am I gonna, am I gonna do this coaching call? Am I going to go home and eat ice cream? Am I gonna go home and eat chicken? Am I going to go visit my husband on the way home? I'm making decisions all the time. All of that adds up to our successes or failures. And that's our behavior. That's what comes of it. In fact, I was in a big commercial event right now, and one of the agents up front even talked about that. He said, guys, these are the tools we use and everything, but you got to use them. He says, you may know all this stuff, but unless you're talking to people, it's not going to go anywhere. And we talk about that in real estate all the time. You may learn and learn and learn about real estate, but if you're not talking to other people and lead generating, you're not going to get any business. So it's behavior that actually takes you there. What makes us do what we do, our behavior, is our feelings. Every action we take is first filtered through our feelings. How we feel about something will always determine or affect how well we do it. Now, sometimes it could be like, I don't feel like calling people. Okay. But then you kind of go through that and you're like, yeah, but am I telling myself a negative? Yeah, I probably am. Do I need to do this? Yeah, I need to do this. That's when you're actually kicking in that feeling. My feeling of needing to do this is greater than my feeling of not doing this. So I'm going to go ahead and do it. And then that what creates the behavior. So I want to make that connection, because a lot of times everybody's like, well, I just feel like this. Well, evaluate those feelings too. And not everything. In fact, I have a framed thing in my office at home, and it says, don't believe everything you think. And I love that. I first got that from my therapist years ago in my late 20s, my counselor. She was wonderful. And eventually she actually became, when my husband and I first got together, we worked through a lot of our things together, and we saw her as well. And she still had it in her office. And I actually took that quote and I thought that's brilliant. And by the way, I even have at the bottom her name, Napoleon Hill, who wrote Think Rich and Grow Rich, and Jesus, because basically Jesus said the same thing. Just because you think it doesn't mean it's true. So don't think that, oh, I thought this, so it's got to be true. No, it may not be the case. I'm going to fail at this. Not necessarily true. That may not be true. I'm no good at this. Actually, you may be good at something, or you may get good at something. People don't want to talk to me. Nope, that may not be true either. It can even be, I knew some people, I've known some men and women, very attractive, but they've told me, they go, well, yeah, I know I'm really not that attractive. I'm like, what are you talking about? Oh my God, are you serious? But their feeling about it and what they told themselves wasn't true. And they believed what they thought, and it had nothing to do with reality. And just like me, and by the way, I'm not saying like I should have ever been on GQ, but just like me growing up with my sister, all of those negative thoughts may not have been reality, but that's what I was thinking. And so don't believe everything you think. Evaluate what goes through your mind. What your feelings are controlled by your attitudes, and your attitudes are perspectives on which you view life. What are, how do you approach things? How do you look at things? If it's a sort of thing where, like, let me be open book here. I just missed out on a sale, but I didn't. I had a client that I sold her home last year. And I mean, I bent over backwards for this woman. I did so much for her, and nobody else was willing to do all this and also put up with a bunch of crap either. And I really did a lot for her. I went above and beyond. I kept in touch with her. When her dog passed away, I sent her a card. I've sent family birthday cards. I've sent Christmas cards. I've dropped off gifts. I've really kept in touch. I've really been involved. But she's a terrible communicator. I've also, because she's needed to buy another home, I've kept her up on the list, and I've kept giving her, and not just sending out an email. I've literally looked at the emails that go out to her, and any homes that would be perfect for her, I've hand texted her, taken it, copied, pasted, text her, hey, this would be great. Why don't you look at this? Blah, 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 blah. I found out she put an offer on a home last week, and they actually went into escrow. And my husband and I were talking about it, and I said, okay, I'll be honest, It really bugged me at first, but I'm now at that point I can let it go because it's not about me. It's about her. She's really the one that, and there's a little bit more to it, but honestly, she's the one that lacks some integrity and character, or even just the courtesy to let me know, hey, Rob, don't worry about sending me anything. I'm working with somebody else. Okay. That would have been just the courteous thing to do, especially after all the talks we had last year about helping her buy a home. And I've been keeping in touch with her. I've been diligent on keeping in touch with her since I sold her home last year. But I could have told myself, oh, I screwed up. I'm not good enough. That would have nothing to do with the facts. That's what I'm telling myself. That would be the attitude in which I'm approaching it. And I changed my attitude. I'm like, no, this isn't about me. This is about her. And because I changed that, I can let go of it. That's fine. You know, it's fine. Let go. That's on her. Our attitudes are created by our beliefs. What we believe about anything will determine our attitudes about it. It'll create our feelings, direct our actions, and in each instance, help us do well or poorly, succeed or fail. You know, how you look at something, what you believe is going to be true is going to do it. That'll even get to the point. Sometimes you may see someone, and this happens to me, I'll see someone that looks like my mom. I'll see someone that looks like somebody who I care deeply about. I don't know this person, but all of a sudden I have these feelings like, oh my God, I like this person, you know, sort of thing, because I believe so, you know, and that is what is driving me, what my beliefs, what are strong. And even in that too, the commercial agent I'm working with now, he has started a foundation working with underprivileged kids. I work with a lot of charity work. If you were to talk to both of us, we believe that other people are of high value. And so those beliefs shift our attitudes, they shift our feelings, and they create our behavior. And lastly, how we get to that point is the programming, how we program. What do we put into our brains? And I love Stranger Things on Netflix, you know, and there's tons on there. But am I only programming my brain with Netflix? No. You know, what else am I putting into my brain? What else am I thinking? You know, what else is going into it? And do I need to be careful about it? And yes, I do. And that is what creates the other things. So if you notice at the bottom, I kind of reverse the order. Why study this? Because the programming creates beliefs. Beliefs create attitudes. Attitudes create feelings. Feelings determine actions, and actions will create results. That's what's going to happen. And all of this starts with your mindset, how you're programming your mind. And let me just make sure, because I've got 10 pages on here. Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to go through the other stuff. One thing I did want to point out is when it comes to our brains, there is our brains, our subconscious does not know when something is a truth or something not a truth. So, and that comes from the book, What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. It's kind of like the gold standard when it comes to self-talk. And this guy, he has YouTube's videos and that kind of stuff. But the reason why I say that is when you if you were to tell yourself something, oh, I'm no good at this. We've talked about the programming. Some of that programming goes into your unconscious. Your unconscious does not know, oh, this is true. You are no good at this. Or no, that's not true. You are good at this. Doesn't know. So because it takes it as a fact, you're no good at this. Now, the first time it comes into your mind, you have no control over that. Okay, fine. What do you do with that? Do you focus on it? And if you keep focusing on it, repeating it, then what's going to end up happening is your subconscious starts to pick that up, and then it filters through that, and that becomes a natural way of thinking. But then you can also reverse that. You can actually say the exact opposite. And it could be, I'm not good at this now, but I'm going to be great. I'm not good at this now, but I'm better today than I was yesterday. Or even I am great at this. Any of those things, you keep repeating and repeating and repeating that to yourself, your subconscious, that's what it picks up, and that's what it starts to filter through. And that's what starts to become the outlook on your life. There's discipline principles to thinking. First, every time you have a negative thought or thought, sorry, your brain releases chemicals. So are they positive thoughts or negative thoughts? And it'll reinforce those things. So you want to make sure that, okay, if you're disciplined in your thinking, then control those thoughts. Just don't let, like, oh my God, focus on it. Well, what are you focusing on? And if you're focusing on something that's good, okay, great. But if you're always focusing on the negative, your brain's gonna chemically back that up. Discipline number 2. Thoughts are powerful and your body reacts to every single one. They literally can hook people up to machines and see, and the brain waves too, they can see how your body will react to thoughts. Let me give you a stupid example. I am scared of heights. I've just always been scared of heights. I work to kind of overcome it. And yes, I've been to the top of the Eiffel Tower. And when I first got up there, I was super scared. My best friend was even more scared. By the time we left, we literally had our hands outside of there's like a cage on the top. We had our hands outside doing selfies. I mean, we were having a great time, sort of thing. But it was one of those things I had to overcome. When I talk to people about my feelings, when I've been in a height situation, my palms sweat. And my husband knows, like, we'll be holding hands and we'll be telling stories about things. And we stayed at the Palms condos one time, and we were on the 37th floor. And the reason why I'm telling you this, literally, there is no metal on the balcony. It's all glass. And so walking out there was like, oh my God. And every time I tell the story, it's happening even right now, my palms start to sweat a little bit. Our body reacts to what we think. And so that gets internalized too. You talk about some people that are stressed out all the time and everything is tight because all the muscles are tight. Trust me, talk to my chiropractor, talk to my physical therapist. In fact, even my physical therapist, he found a few knots. When I saw him last, I'm like, how did that happen? And he goes, well, let me tell you. And he explained, he goes, well, are you at your desk a lot? And have you been stressed a little bit lately? Yeah. And then he explained, well, this is what's happening. And I'm like, oh, my body was reacting to my thoughts. Your thoughts, and this is something we talked about earlier, are hardwired to be negative because it's survival. So don't think it's stupid and don't dismiss it. No, it's part of us and it's good. It's just, it needs to be in perspective. Thoughts are automatic and often lie. Like I said, don't believe everything you think. Many times our thoughts are not true. And one of the worst things that we do as human beings is when we compare ourselves to somebody else. And automatically, a lot of times we go negative, and when you look at somebody and you're like, oh, and you think negative of yourself because you're trying to compare yourself, and like that's just a negative thought and it doesn't do you any good. And it's amazing, you get to know the person and, oh, what you were thinking may not have been true. Or many times I've it's been that sort of thing. I'll meet someone and I'm like, oh, I may not have in common with them, and then I end up becoming really good friends with them. And so my thoughts were not true. What I originally thought, that's not really true. So understand that you got to question a lot of times, hey, is that what I should be thinking? And is that a fair assessment of what I'm thinking? Number 5, you can learn to eliminate negative thoughts that steal your happiness. Whenever you feel sad, mad, nervous, out of control, write down your negative thoughts. Just writing them down helps you to call them out and eliminate and replace them. Because by writing it down, by the way, when you write something down, when you literally, and let me just say, when you have a pen in your hand or pencil and you're listening to a lecture, you retain 70% more than not. So a lot of times I may not take notes a lot of times, but I always have a pen in my hand because it triggers my brain to remember more. If you actually take notes, then you even remember more on top of that. So if you have negative thoughts and you write down those negative thoughts, it's going to help your brain to remember how to deal with this. And you're calling it out. All of a sudden you look at those and like, well, that's stupid, or I shouldn't be thinking that, or that's not accurate. Or I'm going to change that. And it allows you to do that because you're processing it through. Don't assume anything. You don't know what you don't know. So sometimes, it's like, oh, I mentioned earlier, they don't like me. I'm no good at this. You don't know. And you don't know how good you can get at something. I've done a lot of public speaking, and And I still am working on it. You know, it's one of those things I work on, but I'm much better than when I first started. When I first started, I could have said, oh my God, I suck at this. And I could have, but I don't know what I don't know. Did I have potential to get better? Yeah, I did. And so then I did get better at that kind of stuff. So you don't know what you don't know. Don't assume and make it negative. Number 6, you can fight back against negative thoughts. There's 7 of them. And you can go ahead and those are the different ones, you know, it's oh, I can't do anything, and using the universal negatives. I'm never any good. If I don't do this, I'm going to quit. All of that kind of stuff. Everything is bad. Beating yourself up. Oh, I should have done this. Guilt. I should have done that. I should have done that. Labeling things. Oh, I'm just a loser. Oh, I'm older. I can't do this. Oh, I'm younger. I can't do this. That sort of thing. Reading into the future. Oh, I know this isn't going to work out. Mind reader. Oh, I know what they're thinking. No, trust me. I'm married, and we have learned the hard way. I don't know what he's thinking, and he doesn't know what I'm thinking. So you can't be a mind reader to other people. Doesn't happen. Or blaming other people. You know, it's like, oh, this is, and I could do this with my sister. Oh, I failed early in my life because of my sister. That's blaming her. It was still what I allowed to process, what I allowed to take place in my life. That's what ended up shaping my thoughts. That's what ended up doing it. And I had to take responsibility to try and work through that stuff. This just breaks all that stuff down, you know, those 7 ones. And then 7 strategies to master. Eliminate a negative thoughts when they attack. Write it down, like I mentioned. Even identify which one it is. What is this coming from? What's going on with this? And ask yourself, are you really sure it's true? Are you really sure it's true? Would that be the advice you'd give your best friend? I use that all the time to people. When some people are like, oh, I'm thinking this and this, would you give that advice to your best friend? Well, no, I don't think so. Well, then guess what, Sugar Plum? So eliminate those negative thoughts as they come in. There's a thing called the monkey mind, or get out of your own brain, get out of your own head. And that's where you just focus on something and it spirals and it spirals and it spirals and it spirals. Slow down. Don't let that spiral. In fact, it's shown that when people just stop and breathe, it allows them to process things through. There's a tip that this guy, oh my God, I forgot, is Barry Eisner is his name. He's a brilliant brain person. And he has said that studies have shown if you breathe in through your nose and exhale through your mouth, it automatically calms your brain. It automatically lowers your heart rate. It automatically does all these things to calm your body. So a lot of times when people say breathe, do it. You know, breathe in, exhale out of your mouth. It's not some mystic thing. It's actually, no, that's how our bodies work. It calms us down and allows us to focus. Start the day with every day, it's going to be a great day, or I'm going to be great today, or I'm going to learn so much today, or I'm going to create great relationships today. Any of those things, all of those things, come up with your own. Just telling yourself that every day is a great way to do it. I even like the idea of starting off the day with being with having gratitude, because then my entire day, that's what it's kind of filtered through. I started off with gratitude, and it's wiring my brain to think about always having more gratitude. And it allows me to focus on what I don't have and what I do have, what I am blessed with. Record your moods and look for ways to increase your gratitude. If you can keep a daily journal, great. You know, it'll help you to evaluate all these different thoughts and all these different things going through your head. You can write out, and I mentioned, you know, gratitude ideas, write out for 3 things that you may be grateful for. Have a gratitude letter, you know, send things out to people. A lot of my lead generating is done through writing personal notes to people. And if I don't have a reason to write a personal note, you know, it's not like a thank you or a birthday or anything like that. A lot of times I'll literally put in the note, hey, I was thinking of you today, Cynthia, and I just want to let you know, I really appreciate blah, blah, blah. and I'm giving gratitude to that person, and it comes back, you know, and it's just that thing. It builds one another up. It helps program your own brain to have that outlook. It helps other people in that too. And it's just a win-win. Count your blessings, you know, like I mentioned. Um, and you know, I look at, I could have said, you know, a number of things like, oh, well, my family isn't a perfect family. Okay, well, first, most families are not perfect families, you know, so that's one thing. But I always tell people, I have an 84-year-old kick-ass mother, and I'm so grateful for her. You know, I have her. She's still around. She's a kick-ass lady. You know, I talk to her all the time. We joke around all the time. I count all of those blessings. So I don't compare my mom to other people's moms. I count the blessing I have with my mom. Note things that go well, you know, things that you know you've done well, and focus on your accomplishments. Focus on things. There's nothing wrong with also being honest with yourself. I did this well, or I learned from last time I did this well. When I first got in the business, I would never take a listing agreement with me because I thought, oh, I'm being a little bit too bold. I have since learned. And last year, I actually got a listing because I had the listing agreement with me ready to sign, and the guy signed it. I know if I would have left, he probably wouldn't have signed it. He would have gone with this other person. But I left. And so I was one of those things. I told myself that went really well. You know, it's like I accomplished that. Yay. Strategy 5, create optimism with a dose of reality to build a resilience. So problems will go away. Nothing lasts, you know, like in a lot of those things forever. It's just one situation. And can you do something about it? You know, what can you do about it? Can you even change your attitude about it? You know, can you change the way you're looking at it? I don't always share this with people because I don't want it to be my excuse for getting out of things, but I kind of have a fucked up back. And part of my vertebrae is crunched together, 3 of my thoracics. I should be about 6'1", 6'2". I'm 6 foot. And it creates a lot of pain sometimes. And my muscles are always tight back there because it's always trying to overcompensate. And I was actually told in my 20s I was going to be hunchback in my 40s. And then I started working out, and guess what? Nothing's progressed. In fact, I even had a lot of experts tell me, you know, you doing what you do at the gym, your back will always be okay. It'll never progress beyond where it is now. But that's one of those things I could have focused on being negative. And in my 20s, I did. And I really like, oh, I can't do this. It's going to get bad, blah, blah, blah. Well, could I do something about it? You know, can I change my attitude? Can I research it? Can I make it better? And that's what I've tried to do. And even now, sometimes where I'll have a day where it's like, oh, yeah, something's out of place and that really hurts. Well, it's not going to last forever. Can I do something about it? Yes, I can. You know, have I learned tricks to help me with it? Yes, I can. So let me do those things. I'm not going to focus on it being bad. Let me focus on what can make it better even. Change your perspective. We're not controlled by events or people, but our perceptions. So again, something can happen. What's our perception of that? You know, how many times have we heard a tragedy has happened and they look at it, you know, they're saying, well, I'm looking at it in this light. I'm like, how can they do that? Because they're changing their perspective. And sometimes when an event happens, you have no way around it anyway. You know, the event happened, the fact is there. So what are you going to do about it? How can you approach it and learn and grow and have a positive outlook on it? You know, what's going to be part of that experience? And that may take time. You know, that may be something that if it's devastating or really hurtful, it may take longer than others. I told you yesterday, I found out about, you know, a sale I didn't get. That took me a couple hours to kind of mull through, because actually I felt I was good friends with this person. And so there was a little bit of hurt in there too, but it took me a few hours. Other things may take longer. Other things may be shorter, but you can change that perspective. I know it sounds funny, is watch something that's positive. There's a movie years ago, it's in the 50s, called Pollyanna. And it's like, it's this person that always has a positive outlook. And it may sound silly, but it kind of is that same approach. Now, recently we have more on Apple TV, is Ted Lasso. And Ted Lasso kind of has the same sort of outlook. He always looks at something positive. You know, somebody fails on the team. What can we learn? How can we grow? How can we get better? You know, and it's always looking, where's the lesson? Where's the thing that can be gained out of this? And how can he grow? And the resources I mentioned, these are them. Feel Better Fast and Make It Last is by Daniel Amen. And he has several books out. This is one of the first ones I read by him. I love the approach of this book because what it does is it'll tell you things you can do right now and then how it helps you long term. And he takes a complete approach. Now, he is a psychiatrist, so he can go ahead and give out meds. That's his last resort. But he even says in his book, sometimes there's reasons for that. Sometimes there's literally an imbalance that cannot be dealt with outside of giving a prescription. And so that was when it takes place. But he developed also in the 90s with some people, this machine, and it scans the brain for blood flow. And it's the first machine that does that. So most time when we have an MRI and so on, they look at the soft tissue and how it looks and so on, and it can tell a lot. But the blood flow kind of tells how the brain is functioning. And he's actually gone to people that have had traumatic brain injury, the TBIs, the concussions, and help them rehabilitate, because he'll do a scan, he'll see the areas that are damaged, and then they'll talk about exercises that they do with the brain, things they focus on, things they can work on, food, supplements, all of those sort of things that may be in their diet to get rid of, all of those sort of things that can rehabilitate the brain. So I love his approach because it's more like, hey, here's the holistic approach. And here's where a lot of these things come in. And those automatic negative thoughts, the ants that were in earlier that I mentioned, that all came out of his book. Another book is Simon Sinek, and he's kind of like a big thinker kind of person. And he has a lot of TED Talks. And so you can go on YouTube and watch his TED Talks. And I think they're brilliant. And a lot of them, I go back and I watch them over and over again. It's like, I haven't seen that one in 2 years. Just literally this week, last week, I watched one that I haven't seen in 2 years. And I'm like, I want a refresher in that. So I watched it again. He kind of thinks of, the book of Start With Why is, okay, what is your purpose? Why are you doing these things? And it kind of gets to those basics. But then it also helps to have you take action and evaluate what is your thinking. Why are you thinking these things? Why are you going in that direction? And it helps refine that. And it's just really great. And then, like I said, what to say when you talk to yourself. I think this book came out in the 80s by Shal Hemsetter, and he's got some YouTube videos out there and everything. This book is really great in training, and it was so foreign to me on like what to tell yourself every day. He's like, oh, put a Post-it note on your bathroom mirror, and when you go to brush your teeth, tell yourself, I'm going to be great today. I was like, whoa, that's kind of weird thinking. But I started as the more, and just reading the book starts to integrate it more into your routine, and you start to do that more. I'm going to be great at this. I'm going to do well at this. I'm going to learn, I'm going to grow. It's going to be my perspective. I'm going to have gratitude. I'm going to, look at things and where can I get the blessing out of it? All of those sort of things, the book kind of helps you to do. So I wanted to cite the resources I used to put this together. And this kind of material, just going through it, even programs your brain. So I think I went about an hour, but whatever. Any questions?
No, I don't think so, but that was great. I mean, that's super helpful with that. I mean, I feel like, everyone deals with negative thoughts, and now it's like a great way to, cope and stuff. So it's awesome.
And I think that's a great application. When you go in, let me give you an example. When I first got into real estate, this one person gave a tip, and she said she used to be so nervous when she would actually go to people's homes. And then her attitude changed, where she said, these people need my help. These people need my help. And she would tell herself that. So I started telling myself that. Now it's a little bit automatic, but I still do it. I don't want you to think that I don't do it. But now when I go to somebody, I'm like, this person needs my help. This person needs my help. It changes all of your thoughts. I don't get as wound up. I don't get as anxious. I'm focused on helping them, not on me being nervous. And then everything gets filtered through that. It all comes from that. So it's allowed me to kind of reprogram that. And it's allowed me to have like, hey, this person's just another person. Hey, this person, they just need help. Telling yourself that makes a big difference. So yeah, I think that's a great observation.
Awesome.
Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up. But the notes are in here. And when I also mail this out, I'm going to go ahead and